Zarn stood at the edge of the landing pad, his heart racing. He had just arrived on Earth, a planet filled with strange sights and sounds. As an alien soldier from the planet Vraxen, Zarn was used to battle and training, but nothing could prepare him for what lay ahead. He was here to join the Navy SEALs, the best warriors on Earth, and he felt both excited and nervous. The air was thick with humidity, making it hard for him to breathe. Zarn adjusted his heavy combat gear and took a deep breath. His green skin shimmered in the sunlight, and his sharp eyes scanned the area. Around him, humans moved quickly, carrying equipment and shouting orders. This was a busy place, unlike anything he had ever seen. As he walked toward the main building, Zarn noticed a group of SEALs training nearby. They were running, jumping, and swimming with ease. He felt a flutter of fear in his stomach. Would he be able to keep up with them? Zarn knew he was strong, but these humans seemed unstoppable. When he entered the training center, he was greeted by a tough-looking commander. The commander, tall and muscular, stared at Zarn with curiosity. "Welcome to the team, alien. You think you can handle our training?" he asked, crossing his arms. Zarn straightened up. "I am here to learn and fight," he replied, trying to sound confident. The commander raised an eyebrow but nodded. "We'll see about that." The first day of training was brutal. The SEALs pushed their bodies to the limit. They crawled through mud, climbed ropes, and ran miles in the scorching sun. Zarn struggled to keep up. His alien muscles burned and his lungs felt like they were on fire. Each time he thought he would pass out, he pushed harder. He remembered why he was here. He had to prove himself. As the day went on, Zarn began to feel isolated. The other recruits exchanged glances, unsure of how to interact with him. They whispered among themselves, laughing at his struggles. Zarn felt the weight of their doubt. In his culture, teamwork was everything. Here he felt alone. During a break, Zarn sat on the grass, trying to catch his breath. He watched the other SEALs joking and laughing. They seemed like a tight-knit group. Feeling discouraged, he wondered if he would ever fit in. Just then, a SEAL named Jake approached him. Jake was friendly with a bright smile. "Hey, you did well out there, Zarn. It's tough for all of us at first," he said. Zarn looked up, surprised by the kindness. "Thanks," he replied softly. Jake continued, "We've all had our struggles. Stick with us and you'll improve. You have skills we can learn from, too." Zarn felt a spark of hope. Maybe he could make friends here. The next exercise was a challenging obstacle course. Zarn watched as the others tackled it with ease. He felt the pressure building again, but this time he remembered Jake's words. He took a deep breath and ran forward. The course was filled with walls, pits, and ropes, each one testing his strength and agility. As Zarn climbed, he slipped and fell into the mud. The other recruits laughed, but instead of feeling defeated, Zarn pushed himself up and continued. He would not give up. He scrambled over the final wall, panting heavily but victorious. Jake cheered for him, and a few others joined in. Zarn smiled, feeling a warm glow of acceptance. By the end of the day, Zarn was exhausted but proud. He had faced his fears and made it through the first day of training. As he lay in his bunk that night, he thought about how far he had come. Tomorrow would be another challenge, but he was ready. He knew he had to fight not just for himself, but for his new friends and the bond they were forming. Zarn closed his eyes, dreaming of the future and the battles he would face alongside the SEALs. This was just the beginning, and he was determined to succeed. The sun rose early over the training base, casting a golden glow on the buildings and the surrounding landscape. Zarn awoke in his small bunk, still tired from the previous day's grueling exercises. He stretched his limbs, feeling the soreness in his muscles. Today would be another tough day. He had to be ready. As Zarn joined the other recruits for breakfast, he noticed the chatter and laughter around him. The humans seemed to have formed a bond, sharing stories and teasing each other. Zarn felt a little left out, but he was determined to push through. He grabbed a plate of food and sat at a table by himself, focusing on his meal. After breakfast, the commander gathered everyone for the day's agenda. "Today, you will face the physical training test. It will push you to your limits," he announced. Zarn felt a mix of excitement and dread. He had heard stories of the SEALs' intense training, but now it was his turn to experience it. The first challenge was a long run through rough terrain. The recruits had to sprint through mud, climb over logs, and jump across small streams. Zarn took a deep breath and followed the group. He ran as fast as he could, but the uneven ground made it difficult. He stumbled several times, falling into the mud. Each time he fell, laughter erupted from the other recruits. "Come on, alien! Keep up!" shouted one of the SEALs, smirking. Zarn felt his face flush with embarrassment. He had to prove himself. With each fall, he picked himself up and pushed forward. He could not let their laughter break his spirit. Finally, they reached the finish line. Zarn was exhausted, his heart pounding in his chest. He came in last, but he was proud to have finished. Jake waited for him at the end, offering a fist bump. "You did great, Zarn! Just keep pushing!" he encouraged. Zarn smiled, grateful for the support. Next came the obstacle course. This was where the SEALs showed their true skills. Zarn watched in awe as they effortlessly climbed ropes, swung across gaps, and maneuvered through tight spaces. The course looked impossible, and for a moment, doubt crept into his mind. Could he really do this? When it was his turn, he took a deep breath and stepped up to the first obstacle, a high wall. He jumped, gripping the top and pulling himself over with all his strength. He could feel the eyes of the other recruits watching him, but he focused on the challenge. He could not fail. Zarn climbed, crawled, and swung through the course. He faced each challenge with determination, but halfway through he hit a wall, literally. As he tried to jump over a tall barrier, he miscalculated and crashed down hard. Pain shot through his body and he lay in the mud, gasping for breath. "Get up, Zarn! You're tougher than that!" Jake shouted from the sidelines. Zarn's heart raced as he felt the pressure to rise. The laughter around him echoed in his ears, but he pushed it aside. He forced himself to stand, shaking off the pain. He could not give in. With renewed determination, Zarn completed the course, though he was covered in mud and bruises. He stumbled across the finish line, but he had done it. As he looked around, he saw more than just laughter. There were nods of respect from some of the recruits. They had seen his struggle and admired his will to keep going. The last challenge of the day was swimming in the cold ocean. Zarn shivered as he entered the water. The waves crashed around him and the chill made him gasp. The SEALs swam with confidence, but Zarn felt out of place. He had never faced such strong currents. As the instructor called for a race, Zarn's heart raced too. He had to prove he could swim. When the whistle blew, he dove into the water, struggling against the waves. His body fought the cold, but he pushed through. Halfway across, he felt himself tiring. Just when he thought he would drown, he remembered why he was here. He was a soldier, and he would not give up. With a final burst of energy, Zarn reached the shore, collapsing onto the sand. He gasped for air, feeling a mix of relief and pride. The other recruits cheered for him. They had seen his struggle, and now they respected him. That night, as Zarn lay in his bunk, he thought about the day. It had been tough, but he had survived. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, but he was ready to face them. With each passing day, he felt himself becoming part of this team. Together they would train hard and fight harder. The morning sun rose again, bright and hot, casting its rays over the training base. Zarn sat up in his bunk, stretching his sore muscles. Each day was tougher than the last, but he felt a growing sense of strength inside him. Today would be different. Today he would push himself even further. After breakfast, the commander gathered the recruits for a surprise announcement. "Today we will be doing something different," he said, a grin on his face. "We are heading to the woods for survival training." Excitement and nervousness rippled through the group. Zarn felt a spark of adrenaline. Survival training would test them in new ways. As they reached the woods, the commander explained the rules. "You will be split into teams. Each team must find food, build a shelter, and survive the night without any supplies. You will rely on each other and your instincts." The recruits nodded, some looking eager while others appeared anxious. Zarn was determined to show his worth. The teams were quickly formed. Zarn was placed with Jake, a tough and skilled SEAL, and two others named Sarah and Liam. They introduced themselves, and Zarn felt a sense of camaraderie. "Let's work together," Jake said, clapping Zarn on the back. "We'll make it through this." They began by searching for food. The forest was thick with trees and underbrush, but Zarn remembered his training from Vraxen. He had learned how to forage for edible plants. As they walked, he spotted some berries on a bush. "These are safe to eat," he told the others, and they eagerly picked the berries, filling their stomachs. Next, they needed to find a spot to build their shelter. After a short walk, they found a clearing surrounded by trees. The area was perfect, providing cover from the wind. Zarn felt a surge of confidence. "Let's use branches and leaves to build our shelter," he suggested. The team worked together, gathering materials and constructing a small but sturdy shelter. As they built, Zarn felt a sense of pride in his team. Everyone was contributing, and he was no longer the outsider. He was part of something bigger. They laughed and joked, and the atmosphere was light and encouraging. With every nail and tie, they grew closer, forming a bond through shared effort. After their shelter was finished, the group decided to gather more food. They set out again, exploring deeper into the woods. This time, they split into pairs to cover more ground. Zarn teamed up with Sarah, and they wandered away from the others, searching for anything edible. While walking, they stumbled upon a small stream. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and Zarn felt a rush of excitement. "We can use this to drink and wash our food," he exclaimed. They filled their canteens and washed the berries they had collected. As they enjoyed the refreshing water, Sarah looked at Zarn. "You know, you're a great addition to our team. You really know your stuff," she said with a smile. Zarn felt warmth spread in his chest. It was nice to be recognized. Just as they finished gathering food, they heard a rustling noise in the bushes nearby. Zarn's heart raced. What could it be? They turned to see a small animal, a rabbit, hop away. "Let's try to catch it," Sarah suggested, excitement in her voice. Zarn nodded. Using teamwork, they created a plan. They moved quietly, crouching low as they approached the rabbit's hiding spot. With a quick sprint, they chased after it, zigzagging through the trees. Zarn felt his muscles working, and he pushed himself harder than ever. They finally cornered the rabbit, and Zarn swiftly caught it. "We did it!" he shouted, exhilarated by their success. They had found food and proved their skills. As the sun began to set, they returned to their shelter, feeling accomplished. They built a small fire and cooked the rabbit over the flames. The smell filled the air, making their stomachs rumble with hunger. They shared stories and laughter around the fire, feeling more like a family than a team. That night, as they settled into their shelter, Zarn reflected on the day. He had faced challenges, made friends, and found strength within himself. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he felt truly at home. The training was tough, but it was making him stronger. He was no longer just an alien soldier. He was a part of something greater. As Zarn closed his eyes, he dreamed of the battles they would face together. He was ready to fight alongside his team, no matter what challenges lay ahead. He had found his place in this new world, and he would not give up. The sun rose bright and warm, shining through the trees and warming the forest floor. Zarn woke up feeling refreshed after a night of rest and laughter with his new team. The memory of sharing stories around the fire made him smile. Today would be a big day. He could feel it in his bones. After breakfast, the commander gathered everyone again. "Today is the final test of your training," he announced, his voice serious. "You will be put into real-life scenarios. Your skills will be tested, and I expect you to prove yourselves." The recruits exchanged nervous glances. This was it, the moment they had all been waiting for. Zarn felt a mix of excitement and fear. He wanted to show everyone he belonged, but what if he failed? As they walked to the training area, he took deep breaths to calm his racing heart. He had come this far, and he was determined not to let fear hold him back. The first test was a simulated hostage rescue mission. The recruits were divided into teams and given a scenario to follow. Zarn was with Jake, Sarah, and Liam again. They gathered around the commander, who explained the situation. "You must rescue a hostage held by enemy soldiers. Use your training and instincts. You have 1 hour to complete the mission." With adrenaline pumping through his veins, Zarn and his team set out. They moved quickly, scouting the area and gathering information about the enemy. Jake led the way, demonstrating strong leadership. "Stay low and quiet," he reminded them. They crept through the trees, focused on their goal. As they approached the mock enemy camp, Zarn felt the tension in the air. He could see the guards patrolling around a small tent. The team crouched behind a bush, discussing their next move. "We need a distraction," Liam said, looking thoughtful. "What if we throw a rock to draw them away?" Zarn nodded in agreement. "I can throw it far," he suggested. He had practiced his throwing skills during training. The others looked at him with hope. This was his chance to prove himself. He picked up a small rock, took a deep breath, and threw it with all his might. The rock landed far behind the guards, creating a loud noise. The guards turned and ran to investigate, giving the team a clear path. "Let's go!" Jake whispered urgently, leading the charge. They rushed towards the tent, hearts pounding. Zarn felt a surge of confidence. They were working as a unit, and he was playing a key role. Inside the tent, they found the hostage, a fellow recruit pretending to be captured. They quickly freed him, tying his hands and gagging him to simulate the rescue. "We have to get out of here," Sarah urged. They made their way back, but just as they were about to escape, one of the guards spotted them. "Stop!" the guard shouted. Panic set in, but Zarn remembered his training. "I can handle this," he yelled, stepping forward. He faced the guard with determination. They exchanged blows, and Zarn fought with all his strength. He had practiced these moves over and over, and now was the time to put them into action. With a swift kick, he knocked the guard down, gaining the upper hand. The others cheered, their confidence soaring. "Keep going, Zarn!" Jake shouted. Zarn felt invincible. With his newfound strength, he quickly subdued the guard and joined his team. They sprinted back to their base, hearts racing with excitement. As they crossed the finish line, the commander smiled at them. "Well done. You completed the mission with teamwork and courage." Zarn's heart swelled with pride. He had done it. He had proven himself. The final test was a physical endurance challenge, which included running, swimming, and climbing. Zarn felt tired but determined. He had come so far, and he was not going to back down now. He pushed through the pain and fatigue, keeping his focus on the finish line. As they finished the challenge, Zarn noticed the other recruits looking at him differently. They no longer saw him as just the alien soldier. They saw him as one of their own. He had earned their respect, and that meant everything to him. Later that evening, they gathered around the campfire to celebrate their hard work. Zarn felt a sense of belonging that he had never experienced before. As they shared their thoughts and laughter, he realized that he had truly found his place among these soldiers. With the stars shining above them, Zarn knew he had proven himself not just to the others, but to himself. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, standing strong with his team. They were no longer just fellow recruits. They were friends and brothers in arms. Together, they would conquer anything. The sun rose over the training base, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Today was a special day for Zarn and his team. They had completed their training, but their journey was just beginning. They gathered for the last time as recruits, ready to celebrate their achievements and the bonds they had formed. After breakfast, the commander called them together. "You all have shown great courage and teamwork. Today we will have a ceremony to honor your hard work." The recruits cheered, excitement bubbling in the air. Zarn felt a sense of pride swell within him. They had come a long way from being strangers to becoming a true team. As they assembled in front of a large banner that read, "Congratulations, graduates," Zarn looked around at his fellow soldiers. He remembered the first day when he felt lost and out of place. Now he stood among friends, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The commander began the ceremony, speaking about each recruit's strengths and achievements. Zarn listened closely as Jake was recognized for his leadership, Sarah for her quick thinking, and Liam for his creativity. When it was Zarn's turn, he felt nervous. Would the commander acknowledge him too? "Zarn," the commander said, smiling. "You came here as an outsider, but you fought hard and proved yourself as a valuable member of this team. Your strength and determination inspire us all." Zarn felt warmth spread through him. He had finally earned the respect he sought. After the ceremony, the team gathered for a celebration. They shared stories, laughter, and food, feeling like a real family. Zarn realized how much he had grown. These soldiers were no longer just teammates, they were his brothers and sisters in arms. Together, they had faced challenges, and together they would face whatever came next. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the gathering, Jake raised a glass. "To our team. We worked hard and we succeeded together." Everyone cheered and raised their glasses in agreement. Zarn smiled, feeling a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. Later that night, they sat around the campfire, sharing their dreams and fears. Zarn listened as Sarah talked about wanting to serve on missions to help others. Liam shared his hope to become a leader someday. Jake spoke about his dreams of adventure and exploration. Zarn felt inspired by their words. When it was his turn to speak, he took a deep breath. "I came from a faraway planet. I never thought I would fit in here, but you all accepted me. You helped me grow stronger, and I am grateful." His voice was steady, and his eyes shone with sincerity. The others nodded, understanding the depth of his feelings. As the fire crackled, Zarn felt a bond that could not be broken. They were more than just soldiers. They were a family forged in the heat of training. They had shared struggles and victories, and now they would face the world together. Suddenly, Liam suggested, "Let's promise to stay connected no matter where we go." Everyone agreed. They each shared their contact information, vowing to keep in touch and support one another. Zarn felt a rush of happiness. No matter how far apart they might be, they would always be together in spirit. As the night grew darker, Zarn looked up at the stars. Each twinkle reminded him of the journey he had taken. He had gone from feeling like an outsider to becoming a valued member of this incredible team. It was more than he had ever hoped for. In that moment, he made a silent promise to himself and to his friends. He would always fight for them, protect them, and stand by their side, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The bond they had formed was unbreakable, and he would do everything in his power to honor that bond. With a heart full of hope and determination, Zarn smiled at his friends. Together, they would face the future, ready to take on whatever came next. They were a team, a family, and together, they were stronger than they could ever be alone.